So today we're going to be talking about the movement that every amateur golfer needs in the downswing, and it's something that we see with so many professional golfers, and it's kind of coined as the term of the magic move. It's that special move where you can synchronize how to bring that club into the early downswing so it looks like you're holding on to tremendous amounts of power, so you can deliver that club through with just an effortless speed. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that in a very simple 3-step plan. Let's get stuck into it. So first things first, the body movement. I would suggest this is an absolute priority. So there's 2 components to this. First of all, again, we're putting all our emphasis into the downswing. So what we need to do as we start the downswing is we need to make sure that we trigger both lower and chest rotation. Now the reason for this, and what I'm trying to demonstrate to you guys, is if you look at my lead shoulder, in the backswing we will rotate to something like 90 degrees. So therefore, by the time you get to lead arm horizontal, because this is the magic move, this position here, you need to make sure your lead shoulder is back over my lead ankle line, or if you like, my setter position. This is a key thing, because when you get to this lead arm horizontal position here, this is that magic move. And if your shoulder is potentially too far back from this point, that is going to affect the delivery of the club, and it's going to potentially make you look a little bit stuck on your back foot and too flicky. So not only is it just as simple as the idea of thinking, oh, I'll just sort of turn. Like I say, it's really important that as you start it, that you're aware of how much towards that lead side that shoulder needs to move. Now, if you're somebody who does get a little bit on the tendency on the back foot, I would suggest a better way of thinking about this is to make sure that you re-establish your angles. So what I mean by this is, in the golf posture, you would start in what's known as a state of flexion, which basically just means you'll be pointing down towards the ground. In the backswing, you'll go upward, okay? So you'll go into a state of extension. So then as you start the downswing and you're trying to move that lead shoulder back to that lead side, you have to make sure you re-establish those angles that you left in your posture. If you're somebody who struggles to move to the lead side, that's probably because you've got more of a tendency to stand up, and that doesn't allow the shoulder to move this way. It makes the shoulder move too quickly back and behind you, upsetting the sequence and making you become more of a sort of casty, hanging back type of golfer, which is one of the things that we really want to avoid. Now, for most amateur golfers that I would meet that struggle with delivering the club and working in the downswing, would automatically start to get quite a strong feeling for this type of movement. They would start to understand moving the hips, moving the chest and moving the lead shoulder, and just getting them to practice pausing at lead arm horizontal. So once you've worked on the rotation of your body, then what you need to be doing is you need to be concentrating on what your trail arm is doing in the downswing. So if you've started to master that feeling of rotating towards that lead side, what we don't want is we don't want to keep that trail arm up in the air as we start this motion, because this will encourage the club shaft to come down too steep. So once you start moving in this manner, you kind of want to get the feeling that your upper arm is moving down towards the side of your body, or if you like, your trail elbow is starting to move again more down towards the rib cage on the side. What this does is this gives the club that ability to stay on plane. Where amateur golfers tend to be is a little bit more this way. You don't want that. You want to be this way. So getting more of a feeling of this crunching to the side of your body is going to help you with that club delivery, and that's the second part of the magic move. Okay, so it's really simple, right? You just rotate your body to the lead side and you move your trail arm down to the side of your body. The last little piece of the puzzle is, well, the club face position. And what I would suggest is this depends on how this moves in terms of how you're going to square the club face. The reason why, if you are a golfer, or if you're somebody who likes the idea of moving your trail elbow more in front of your hip, what this is going to do is this is going to push your hands more out in front of your body. If you prefer the idea of just moving your trail arm down to the side of your body, like so, then you can see the difference now between the club face here, the club face here, and the club face here. So the further your hands are in front of your body, the more that it will have an effect on opening the club face. If your hands are theoretically, should we say, a little bit tighter to your body, then the more the club face will look in this type of position. Now, what is obviously a big thing is if you're the type of golfer, and what we see with professional golfers, the ones that really have high rates of rotation in this type of movement here, and they drive the elbow, is what we tend to see is, yes, they'll have more of a tendency for the club shaft to shallow because there's more need to help them keep the club on plane. But what we'll also tend to see is that those type of golfers will also be producing more flexion. Now, doing this, you see the difference in the club face here. So this is a club face which is squaring, okay? And then, like I say, if you bring your arms down to the side of you, it's not necessary. You don't need to be doing flexion if your arms are going to move more to the side of you, because you have more of a tendency to sort of close the face. So when I meet golfers and they're trying different swing thoughts out and they're messing around with either the grip type or, you know, messing around with the wrist positions in the top of the backswing on the start to the downswing, they're absolutely fine to mess around with. But what I'm trying to say is the key thing really in terms of being able to deliver a fantastic early downswing position is very much about, first of all, rotating the body towards the lead side. That's a key thing. Second one, moving this trail arm to help you keep the club on plane. And then the last thing is, depending how those two movements look, you can then mess around with the wrist positions. But I would only suggest that you start playing around with flexion if you are getting your hands and your elbow more in front of your hip, because otherwise you'll notice the club face will be too open, and like so. And that's a better thing to rehearse, and hopefully this video will really help you out, especially if you're somebody who's been trying to work on that for a long time. So my next video that I'm going to be doing on the channel is going to talk about this motion in more detail and a fantastic drill which will help you out. So I'd suggest that you subscribe to make sure you don't miss out on that video. But I'd also suggest is, if you're a golfer who really struggles with driver and some of the points that I've made in today's video you think really relate to you, then I'd strongly suggest watching this video, because again I talk about the importance of the wrist positions so that you can start drawing that driver and getting much better results. See you again really soon.